So,
Can, by show of hands, quickly, how many of us are educators?
there is a mic.
Okay, researchers?
Yeah.
And students? Okay. Yeah. So all of us perhaps, yeah? So, I mean, we work on many assumptions and biases. This is one of those. So we'll try to talk about it maybe later, but over to Neeraja.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Asim and I, we are here from IISER Pune, and we are going to talk about our experiences of, working in this field of teacher education. So, we have multiple programs running for school teacher education, college teacher education, mainly in STEM or sciences for that matter. And most of what you are going to see today is focused on undergraduate, but since it's very difficult to differentiate between school and college education, so most of our beliefs also stem from our experiences in school education for that matter. So first of all, when all of us are here, the reason I think why Asim asked all of us what do we characterize ourselves as, scientists or researchers or teachers or students, is because when we are trying to find out what this particular elephant looks like, we always give it the analogy of blind men trying to figure out what an elephant looks like. And pretty much for undergraduate education, or for that matter education, science education of how it should be, is something that everyone or people from different types, people who are stakeholders in this ecosystem, should really have a say in, or should really try to figure it out together. So when we are talking about community of practice, we are talking about pretty much everyone that we talked about. Everyone needs to come together to figure out how education should be. We should construct our definition of how education should go ahead.
And perhaps we will be successful in understanding who this is. But at the same time, we try and learn as we go ahead. So Neeraja mentioned both school as well as higher education efforts. We mainly started working with teachers. We also work with students who have taken admission in colleges and schools. But going ahead, this is very important, and this is something we still struggle to understand what exactly is that we are dealing with and how to go about it. So we believe the effort should be that even though we are blind, let's share whatever we understand and whatever we do. Talking about ecosystem that we are here is going to help us a lot, because this is where we all can easily and openly talk and discuss what we do and what we wish to do.
If we think about what does this community really need, I mean, when we are talking about undergraduate education, and if we think about the national education policy, and for that matter, many evidence-based practices that have shaped this particular field, we need classrooms that are inclusive, specifically for a country like India where there is huge diversity. We need inquiry-based teaching learning, because again we want to focus on the process of science, not on the product or the final answer. Process or the skills is what will help us go ahead and tackle new problems or new challenges that come our way. Active learning, because again I think since morning we are talking about how there is a decline in student number and how we really need to make sure that the students are engaged in learning. More importantly, when it comes to teachers need to be aware of evidence-based practices in science education. So thank you, sir, for saying that we should have teachers who have a good background of what science education is and research in that domain. At the same time, since we want to really aim at skills, knowledge and attitude gain, so outcome-based education, what do we really want our students to be? And so that's what is the need for this community. And who are the community of practitioners that we are talking about? We are talking about educators, of course, college teachers or undergraduate teachers, students, because they are a good voice to have in the classroom, college administrators, teacher educators who will work with these teachers and students, at the same time education researchers. So when we are talking about community of practice and practitioners, we are trying to pretty much address both of these things. we will focus mainly on the educators, but we'll also talk about our efforts with students and also a little bit with administrators and researchers going ahead. So, okay, if we think about undergraduate teachers in India for that matter, who becomes an undergraduate teacher? They are people who are interested in the domains of physics, chemistry, maths, bio. They have a degree in that subject. Very often they have not taught before. They don't have a good foundational knowledge of what pedagogy is, what science pedagogy should look like, and more importantly, on the job. So let's imagine that this particular teacher has done a PhD. During the PhD also they have not taught a lot. So they are expected to go to the classroom and teach for the first time and really be good at it or learn on the job. So many of our undergraduate teachers do not have the pedagogical knowledge that to begin with. At the same time, I will also, after experiencing the teachers for some years now, there is also a lack of content knowledge, and for that matter, how science progress or how science really shapes the society. There is a lack of, a good idea about that. Why I will say this is that most often many of our undergraduate teachers have not performed active research. Even if they have, very often in their PhDs they have listened to their advisors and not really taken a part in a thorough active research. This is the, I'm talking about all India scenario, I'm not talking about Pune, Bombay or city level scenarios where there are good teachers. So if we think about the support that we have to provide these teachers to become good teachers, when we are talking about the mental support, emotional support, organizational support and professional supports, we have to think about various ways. So organizational will include infrastructure that the teacher needs or the technology that they need, but more importantly the organizational rules should let them have a voice in curriculum, let them have a voice in how they wish to deliver the curriculum and the development of the same. At the same time, when we are talking about the mental support that a teacher typically needs, it comes in a broader sense, the technological pedagogical content knowledge. Believe it or not, all of us here, we are, how many years we have worked in a particular domain, we still are going to have misconceptions about a particular thing in the subject that we ourselves love. So when it comes to content knowledge as well as pedagogical content knowledge, there is a huge need to work with the teachers. At the same time, how to map a curriculum, what is an intended learning outcome, how do you really come up with assessments that are aligned with these outcomes, and pedagogies that go alongside. So that is something that the teachers definitely need. When it comes to professional, of course, good professional development programs, opportunities of leaderships, community building, and support beyond domain. Very often science teachers are only getting trained by science educators. We should think beyond that, because science is something that that's it's a good I would say ingredient in the whole fabric of the society. So science teachers should also talk to social scientists, they should also talk to artists and other things, so that we can create a good vision for them. At the same time, when it comes to emotional support, most of our teachers, and this is again comes from an experience, teaching is a thankless job. Very often they are overburdened with work, they are burdened with a lot of work pressures that are not related to their subject, that are not related to their, the core thing that they love, which is teaching. But when they find a community that supports them, they see that they have a voice, slowly we have seen these teachers open up and really share what will help the entire community to grow.
So this pyramid was developed as we went ahead with working with teachers in various programs. What we are going to talk about today is mainly the program which we are currently running for last 3 years. We try to incorporate all of these things in the program. It's a balancing act. We are not always successful touching upon all the parts of this pyramid. But very importantly, the mental and emotional is the part we thought always are missed in most of the professional development programs. Not just there, but also day-to-day working in higher educational institutes. One model that we are sharing with you right now is something that we have been working on. the model of sort of helping and developing capacities in teachers, we think it should be a longer model. It's a longitudinal model. It all of you will agree, it doesn't happen in like 3 days, 10 days, or a month kind of a course. It's an ongoing process. At the same time, our focus is on developing network and community. We may spend 40% of our efforts and time in developing a community of educators. I think that is what is mostly missing. One major advantage we have is we worked in higher education institutes as educators. So this kind of experience certainly comes where a practitioner becomes a trainer and tries to develop a program for capacity building. NEP, we have been hearing about it now for a few years. Even now, there are still talks and workshops going on in understanding what that NEP is, especially when it comes to what exactly am I going to do in my classroom. What is NEP in my classroom, right? So our main focus is on classroom delivery, right? As Sir absolutely correctly said, that NEP is here for like 2020. But there were so many things that were happening before that, and there are still many things that are not part of NEP but still happen, are really good practices, right? So our focus is developing such programs which is based on our educator needs, right? So this is where our experience and our team's experience come in. We worked with, mainly for this program, with colleges in Maharashtra. So Maharashtra State Faculty Development Academy, which was started by the government of Maharashtra, which is a Section 8 company. So they wanted to work on many things, and we collaborated and we started this. So many a times it does happen that our teachers come to ISER Pune or places like TIFR, NCBS, IISc, and they are of course overwhelmed and they like being in such institutes. But at the end they say, oh, this is good for you. In my college this won't work, right? And this is obvious, right? We had that conversation, which I remember in our one of the first workshops, where a teacher who teaches physics said that this is very nice, right? But my college doesn't have this instrument, right? So this is not going to work. A counter to that is, then do we require such instruments to teach physics? Is not really the case, right? To teach physics, we certainly need some instruments, but that is not the only condition to teach physics to your students. So we tried to focus mainly on these resource-limited colleges and regions as we went ahead. Our workshop went outside ISER in those colleges, where we worked with those resources, those labs, and those teachers, sort of in a way demonstrating, yes, this can happen in your college. You just require some will as we go ahead. And taking small steps. This is what we certainly highlight for us also. It's important that we break the problem down into small pieces and work one day at a time. That has certainly helped with us and many teachers that we work with. If we talk about content of the workshop, is basically aligned with the curriculum that our teachers teach, right? Now, this is something, is the main reason why they should attend my workshop, right? Most of the times, in the various kind of FDPs, new technologies, new methods are shared. But again, those are important in those 4, 5, 10 days, nothing beyond that. And the focus is on recognizing aspects of learning. Now, this is where higher education teachers are never trained, right? I am not saying the B.Ed and M.Ed courses are the real courses where, you learn how to teach. But there is something that initiates thinking about learning and teaching. So that never happens with us. So our focus was also on working and sharing with these teachers what exactly learning means, right? And all of this was based on evidences. So basically, subject-specific research that happens partly in India, but mostly outside, unfortunately. Unfortunate part is not happening in our country. But we started looking at this, that if you want to be a good teacher, especially a science teacher, why don't we think scientifically about teaching? Right? So that aspect came in as workshop content. This is just a sample of a level 1 workshop that we do. We have 3 levels. As the level goes up, the intensity, the engagement increases. So themes are related to something that of course is highlighted in NEP, but we never talk about NEP. We talk about why we want to do this. There are some synchronous parts and there are some asynchronous parts that goes in the workshop. We'll talk about this and we'll share this information with you if you are interested. But the idea is engagement of participants and also those who have been part of our workshops coming back and then becoming trainers for our next workshops. That's the theme that we work on, and that is where the engagement and community of practice happens.
I also want to add here that the aspects of learning that Asim talked about in the previous slide, the most of the workshop is kind of weaved around those aspects of learning. So reflective practices is a core aspect of all of the MSD programs. At the same time, collaborative learning, because that's what learning really is. You learn from each other, you learn from the community, you learn when you think on your own, and of course you learn from the trainer. So there are like multiple ways of self-reflection to metacognition that we take the different approaches in the workshops.
So this started, like I said, 3 years back, and we are happy that we could go in different parts of the state, engage various teachers as we went ahead. These are a few numbers for your reference. We thought this is how the program should be done. But when we met other people, we understood that no, this number is actually huge, right? Why it is huge? I think because we involve teachers in the whole process and not just end users of these workshops. We try to focus on, of course, the rural and urban population of our educators, as well as looking at the gender ratio, which is much better than the ratio that we have in the population right now as educators in Maharashtra. The idea is basically to have fun while we are doing this. Fun doesn't mean that we enjoy everything after 3 days we go back, but rather giving them something that they will enjoy doing it in their classrooms. So basically we replicate many things that we expect them to do then in their classrooms. All of these are undergraduate, postgraduate teachers from colleges and universities. Day 1 is always full of excitement, resistance, and they're getting tired, because none of them are used to actually being learners in this way. But day 2, day 3, and as we go ahead, the nature changes. Some of these teachers have been advocating the approaches that we have developed and they are part of. So 3 of them are here, and this is by coincidence. So Dr. Bagul has also done our workshop, and he comes from an aspirational district, where there are hardly any resources and all these things. Sachin mentioned this perhaps too much in this session, but we want these teachers to also come in such platform and share what they have done, not just us coming ahead. And what Neeraja mentioned, we wanted to do this anyways, but we could start this after 1.5 years into the program. That is engaging students and teachers together in a workshop. That rarely happens, right?
Yeah. So this is something that we have tried so far, only 4 workshops done, but we are really eager to do more. The main objective why we started doing it was we wanted our team to get sensitized about what the real conditions are. What are the college students today like, that we are training the educators, but we should also have a very core experience of working with them in different districts, in different scenarios, as we go ahead. At the same time, we wanted to demonstrate the implementation at the classroom. Very often when we hear from teachers, oh, this is possible at your end, but not possible at my end. Well, let's go ahead and try and do it at your college with your students, with your facilities, and let's see if that works out. Using the available support infrastructure, lab support that you have. So the model is that we have 8 to 10 students per group, along with 1 or 2 teachers per group. That's how we combine them in a group. And they are given challenges, or they either perform inquiry-based labs in different disciplines. But the lab or the inquiry is something that the teacher and the students both have never seen. So the teacher really doesn't know the answer right away. They also have to go through the inquiry themselves to figure out the answer. At the same time, the challenges are shaped such that if we think of the two generations coming together, the teacher generation and the student generation, there is some technological advantage that the students have, and they can bring in those expertise. At the same time, the teachers can bring in the expertise of, you know, whatever content knowledge that they have. So when they're trying to solve a challenge together, the teachers learn from the students a lot of new things, and at the same time the students of course learn from the teacher as they're doing the lab. And the reflection sharing becomes a very core part of this exercise, where the teachers and students share together what they learned. And if you see the you know, various feedback, and if we go through the feedback, what we see is that all the principles or practices that we talked about slowly transform these students into practitioners. They start, you know, believing that, you know, I should have active learning in my classroom. They start demanding it from their teacher. You know, they say, why can't we do a group discussion on this? Let's have, you know, a discussion about how this particular lab should be done. So they start demanding these things from their teachers, really making them a core part of the practitioners.
So as we go ahead, and we have been asked to cut it down. So there are various questions that we also try to answer ourselves. This part of our assessment of the program and how we do and where we are going. So there are some important questions that I have written here. You can take a look at it later and we can also discuss. But this is something we want to really understand, that how a teacher training workshop, a capacity building workshop should develop, what aspects we should get in these programs, and are teachers ultimately adapting them to their classrooms. So far the response has been really well. I mean, we can just highlight some slides, we'll not go in details of this. So in terms of challenges, in terms of what will I deliver in my classroom once they go through our workshops. So these are their responses, and we follow them up, that are they doing this, are they using the same thing that we discussed, or they are developing their own, and so on. So far this has been the case where they are trying to do various things that they learn throughout the workshops. But going ahead, we are also interested in understanding the challenges that they perceive as they go, right? So this is where 34% of them say they don't have any challenge, right? So we are still curious. We want to exactly know why they say this. But if this is the case, then we want to highlight exactly what happens in the workshop, and let's try to replicate those things. But of course, majority of the challenges is again time limitations, syllabus, other duties that we have heard since morning. The idea is to sort of take small steps and understand what exactly then you can try out of all the things that happens in the workshop. So far, teachers are saying that peer interaction is something that they will certainly do, and they have done. So majority of the teachers make sure that in the classroom, peer interaction happen by various activities. Second is activity-based learning, right? It's not necessarily active learning, even though we promote active learning, it's activity-based learning that they are trying to do. And importantly, inquiry-based learning, with which we started these science and mathematics teacher workshops. Slowly we went into the humanities, social sciences teacher training as well, where we were not sure, but teacher seems to be sure that yes, we can work together. So this has been happening. The data, of course, we are collecting as we go ahead. I'll skip to maybe a couple of more slides and go to the reflection part.
Okay, so in reflection, if we have to summarize what really works for the participating teachers, it's performing the activities in their local setting when the workshops actually happen in their colleges. Community hand-holding, so whenever the teacher joins our group, we never really let any group die. There is constantly some interaction going on the group, which could be about the content, it could be something that a teacher does in the classroom and posts on the group, and it is really, you know, cheered by other teachers that are doing it. Training in native language, so this is something very, very important, especially in India, is what we have realized now that we work in 4 or 5 different states, not just Maharashtra. So for our school level program, we work in multiple states, and you have to speak the language. That's one of the easiest way to get to the teachers. Experiencing active learning themselves changes their idea about what learning should look like in classroom. Once they experience it, they are on board and they will try to implement it in their own classes. and asking reflective questions. So that's something that we are working on. Still a challenge to really getting the teachers to ask reflective questions, but at least we as teacher educators can ask reflective questions to our participants. And doing all of this, we have to construct their idea of education. It's not our as teacher educators idea, but the participating teachers and students together should really have a voice in what education should look like.
If we look at teacher educators, so we are advocating that teachers who are practitioners should come into the training field and they also become trainers and go into the training part, is of course knowing participants' background, right? So that certainly helps. Me coming from Pune or she coming from Mumbai and Pune, right, doesn't go well always where we travel, right? But importantly, if these teachers who are from the same region join us and they take part in our workshop, certainly helps. Their teaching experience certainly helps. We try to make sure at level 2 and going ahead. There are senior teachers who come at ICER for the 10-day intensive workshop, but also young teachers who have recently joined, and their interaction is very important. As we go ahead, in terms of working as a team and co-facilitator, we try to do that. So the community that we have built certainly helps taking it ahead. As trainers, the local challenges are also very important. So what Dr. Bagul was saying, right? So students not coming to my class is my problem. He has an STM, he has a scanning tunneling microscope in his college, but there are no students who come, right? So these are the problems that we need to work on. Of course, repository of activity is something that we are developing. We want our teachers to also contribute. They do contribute, but not up to the point where we want them to. And of course, increasing awareness about importance of research, importance of evidence. So all of us, since we have heard since morning, right, all of us are really talking and raising these problems from bottom of our hearts, right? Somehow that doesn't work. We need evidence. We need evidence to support what we are saying certainly works. We need evidence to convince people, right, as well as funders. This is also very important as we go ahead. So these are some reflections that we wanted to share with you. The way in which we have presented is certainly not the way in which our workshop works. It's not we talking and people listening, it's the other way around. But based on the time and whatever we had, we just thought of sharing this. Of course, these are our partners. There are many more, but we are just highlighting those who work with, rather we work with in higher education itself.